When my grandfather died, everyone gathered in the lawyer's office expecting the same thing. Not to sound awful, but we all knew there was money. Grandad had never been flashy, but he'd done well for himself. Owned his house outright. Sensible investments, no debt. My cousins were already making comments in the waiting room. Mum was trying to act normal, but had clearly thought about kitchen renovations. My uncle had apparently already looked at campervans. Nobody said it directly, but everyone expected something. Then the lawyer started reading. House, sold and divided. Investments, divided. Personal items, listed. Then he got to me. I got the bird. That was it. Grandad's parrot, a blue and gold macaw named Jasper. There was a moment where nobody said anything. Then my cousin laughed. You got the bird? The lawyer nodded. My uncle actually looked embarrassed for me. I remember smiling politely. Oh, okay. Inside I was thinking, seriously? Everyone else got something useful. I got an 80-year commitment with feathers. Jasper came home with me 3 days later. Grandad had adopted him years ago after somebody surrendered him. Nobody knew exactly how old he was. Old enough. That's all anyone ever said. He arrived in an enormous cage with toys, bowls, instructions, and approximately 17 different warnings. Don't feed avocado. Don't use nonstick pans. Don't ignore him. Don't underestimate him. The first week was miserable. He screamed every morning, destroyed a wooden perch, threw pellets onto the floor, and watched me clean them up. My mother came over once. She stood in the doorway and said, You know, if this gets too much, you could rehome him. Then she added, Your grandfather really should have left you something practical. That annoyed me more than I expected, because suddenly it felt less like I'd inherited a bird, and more like I'd inherited proof nobody thought I mattered enough to get something better. Jasper didn't talk. Everyone had promised me parrots talk. Jasper mostly judged. He stared. He clicked. Sometimes he laughed at inappropriate moments, but words? Nothing. For months, I cleaned, fed, researched, bought better toys, started letting him out in the evenings. Eventually, he started following me around the house, not cuddly, just nearby. He'd sit on the curtain rail and observe. If I moved rooms, eventually he'd appear. One evening, I was making dinner and said out loud, You know, everyone thinks I got ripped off. Jasper looked at me, tilted his head, then in a perfectly clear voice, Good things take time. I froze, slowly turned. Jasper blinked, then climbed onto his bowl. I stood there for a full minute, then laughed, because I recognized it immediately. That was Grandad. He used to say it constantly. Good things take time. After that, Jasper started talking more, not conversations. Fragments, little pieces, most were random. Too much fertilizer. Close the gate. Don't trust cheap strawberries. Classic Grandad. But sometimes, they weren't. One Saturday, I was fixing a broken shelf. Jasper climbed down his stand, looked at me, and said, Measure twice. Pause. Then, Don't rush because somebody's watching. I sat down, because suddenly I realized something. These weren't tricks. These were things Grandad had said enough times that Jasper had remembered them. Over the next year, I started writing them down. Little sayings, stories, advice, memories. One day Jasper said, Your grandmother picked the ugly one. No context. Eventually I asked Mum. She laughed for 10 minutes. Apparently Grandad had proposed with 2 rings. My grandmother picked the smaller one because she thought the expensive one looked ugly. Nobody had told me that story before. Another day, bird cost $40. That one confused everyone. Until my uncle remembered. Grandad had bought Jasper decades ago because nobody wanted him. $40. My uncle laughed and said, Typical. Dad never bought expensive animals. Then one evening, about 18 months after Jasper moved in, I was sitting on the couch. Quiet house. Jasper climbed down, walked across the back of the sofa, and in Grandad's exact tone said, You did all right. I looked over. He fluffed his feathers, then added, Don't sell the bird. I cried, which was embarrassing because the bird immediately started laughing. People ask sometimes whether I'm keeping him forever. Absolutely. Turns out I got the best inheritance. Not because he talks, not because he reminds me of Grandad, Not because he's valuable, but because everyone else got money. And money eventually becomes renovations, or camper vans, or investments, normal life. And I got something that still surprises me, still makes me laugh, still occasionally tells me not to buy cheap strawberries. And every now and then, when I'm rushing around trying to do too much, Jasper looks at me and says, "Good things take time." And somehow, it still sounds like Grandad.